There are more lies. So FatMan on Twitter just released a thread that kind of summarizes everything that he's discovered so far, all the lies that were going on with the Terra Luna ecosystem, Do Kwon's behind the scenes operation, or whatever you want to call it. And so I'm going to go over the summary in that thread that he just posted and break it down with you guys. Before I get into that, guys, I just want to say, please hit that subscribe button for me. I'm trying to take this channel to the very, very top. If you are a returning subscriber, I wish you a very prosperous next cycle. So those wishes go to you as well if you hit that button. So FatMan's thread, he just put this out about an hour ago. And it literally goes through every major point that he has talked about and kind of hits on the different, mischievous things that the Terra Luna ecosystem has been doing, Do Kwon, all of the above. And I think it's pretty crazy to see all of what they were doing. So he starts off the thread. He says, "I love cryptocurrency, the cryptocurrency ecosystem, and it may have a bright future, but the biggest problem we have to address is the sheer lack of accountability, the lack of integrity. Liars and grifters can swindle at an unimaginable scale. The community must act. Here are some big lies." So before we get into the lies, FatMan has a really good point here, that crypto, because it allows people to tap into instant equity, right? So anyone can release a token and have instant access to a market. You don't usually have that, right? With stocks, you can't just list any stock on the market. You have to go through, the whole listing process, get accepted by exchanges, all that, Security and Exchange Commission, like all these sorts of things are barriers. And you got to have a company big enough to do it. So you can't just create like some scam deal and throw it on the stock market. Now I know there's going to be arguments against that, like, oh, this company was a scam. But I mean, on the scale that we see it in crypto, you can't, some John in his basement can't just throw a token out there or a stock out there, but he can do that with a token. And so that's the issue that we're facing, is separating the good projects with real, with integrity from the scam projects that are just out there to hype and do other malicious things. So, okay. The first lie, the Chai Lai. So Do Kwon went around on podcasts telling people that Chai Terra was being used by major Korean merchants, and nobody called him out for the fact that Chai had no users and no real merchants at the time. It was all a scheme for TFL to launder money out, no accountability. So this is pretty crazy. So that video I put out yesterday, we talked about Kernel Labs and how they were laundering money through Kernel Labs. It looks like they were also using this whole Chai Terra partnership as a way to launder money as well, because there was no real users, but somehow lots of money flowing through the business, which was it's pretty crazy. It's another avenue for their money laundering scheme. Okay, so the next lie, the Multisig lie. Do Kwon publicly told people multiple times that the LFG funds were being held on a Multisig wallet controlled by 7 directors. So for those of you who don't know, what a Multisig wallet is a wallet that requires multiple people to agree and sign the transaction for it to go through. Okay, so typically when you're dealing with a major community, a big project with lots of money involved, you have the treasury funds locked with a multi-sig wallet, so that way one bad actor can't just steal all the money. It would require all 7 to sign and send the money in order for it to go through. So again, it's just kind of an added safety measure. Usually one of the people who holds a multi-sig, or that is on a multi-sig, is part of the community, so they're separate from the team. So even if the team went rogue, that random community member would also need to sign in order for it to go through. So it's just an added safety measure. It's common practice. If you're dealing with a lot of money or in a project that has a lot of money, you want to see them holding it in a multi-sig. In fact, only TFL controlled the wallet, and Do Kwon pulled out the last batch of coins without a board vote. So in this case, everyone that was on the Multisig was a part of the same team. There was no one from the community, and Do Kwon actually was able to pull out a bunch of tokens at the end there without any vote, without anyone, without anything. He just went and they signed and pulled it out, which is pretty crazy to know that that's technically partially your money if you were invested in Luna at the time, that they're just throwing around and doing whatever they see fit. The peg defense lie. The $3 billion moved from the Luna ecosystem for ongoing peg defense was instead used as a bailout treasury for when the peg had already collapsed, and was also used to purchase large tranches of Luna over the counter, which was never disclosed mandate, no accountability. So they were already late to the game with defending the peg. So instead of defending the peg, they used that money to bail out the treasury and to buy a bunch of Luna over the counter. And this kind of goes back to the Binance shady backdoor deals that we were talking about yesterday, that FatMan also brought up. He doesn't directly say that, but my guess is that is probably these over-the-counter trades. They can't just happen. You need an exchange to be involved to be able to handle that kind of volume. And so my guess is they went to Binance, bought a bunch of their own Luna tokens, and then ended up tanking anyway. So what a silly way to go down. So next one, the Project Dawn lie. TFL gave themselves a monthly allowance of 3 million Luna for Project Dawn infrastructure improvements, promising monthly reports with full transparency. These reports never came, and a lot of Luna was moved off to centralized exchanges. No accountability. So they were giving themselves 3 million Luna per month to build Project Dawn, which never ended up materializing, and a lot of it was being sent to exchanges. The reason you send money to exchanges is so you can cash it out. So they were sending these Luna to centralized exchanges and cashing it out for who knows what, because there's no reports. We don't know. And where did that money go? I mean, obviously, Project Dawn is not being worked on at the moment. So where is all that money? What happened to that money? I'm sure they would come out and say, oh, it's all being held in Luna, and so there's no more Luna to use. And yeah, I understand that they got to send some to the exchange to cash out to pay people to work on Project Dawn, but it sounds like there was a large amount, like more than you would need to pay people. And again, there's no reports to follow it up, so we don't know where that money went. So the Terra 2 distribution lie. So Do Kwon told validator chat rooms that TFL owns 0 tokens. They told you this would be a community chain, and yet wallets controlled by TFL secretly siphoned off over 3.3% of the supply, vesting, currently worth over $230 million. So while they didn't own, you see this is like a play on words, basically. So they're saying they didn't own any tokens, but yeah, they were taking tokens, selling them, converting it to cash, and taking the cash. So technically they didn't own any tokens, but they were cashing out tokens and paying themselves quite a bit. Again, I understand that projects need to pay themselves. That's not the issue here. The issue here is the transparency. How much were they paying themselves? Are they all getting, $100 million salaries? Like, what is going on here? Who's being paid what? Where is this money going? Because ultimately, this is the Luna investors and the UST investors. They're the ones that fronted this money that they're using to do whatever. So this is something that needs transparency. We need to know where things like this are, like what's happening here. Because otherwise you can't trust the product, you can't trust the project or the team, and things could be going on like this and you have no idea because there's no transparency. The community must band together as a force and call out these vultures when their lies arise. There must be consequences. Let there be transparency. Let there be justice. Every lie, every scam is a stain on our beloved space and brings us one step further from our aims. And this is a great ending because that's the truth. I mean, every time we run into a scam like this, it was BitConnect last cycle. There's lots of projects that have come out that have been total scams. it's ammunition for people to want to shut down crypto who don't understand crypto. Okay, if you're somebody who's been a crypto skeptic and people are trying to persuade you that crypto is a good thing and wants to do good things for people, and then this kind of news breaks where people lose $60 billion in a death spiral that turns out to be a money laundering scam, that looks pretty bad. And those people are going to go, see, I told you, crypto's terrible. People are losing lots of money. You know what I mean? Like, this is like, we're not playing with pennies anymore. Like, this is like big bank collapse type money losses. So this is not like something that we can just, shrug off and move on from. We have to outline, I think, some ways that teams need to be more transparent. When you're dealing with this kind of money, you have to be able to disclose what you're doing with that money and keep people updated. Does that mean added staffing and maybe cost to teams? Yeah, it does. But instead it prevents, something like that could prevent something like this, or at least give people a heads up on what's happening and let them decide to pull out, instead of the token just entering a death spiral and us all finding out about it later. So again, yeah, I think FatMan's ending to this is very hits the point. We really need as a community to come together and stop hyping tokens that are known scams. And again, Luna, I do not include Luna in this, or Terra. That whole ecosystem had a lot of people involved, and no one really realized that it was like this. But there are projects that have come out that have been obvious scams, that have even said that they're scams, and people still buy them for the hype, and then they end up losing money. But again, you're just fueling this mindset of just, let's dump a token out there, make our money, and run. And that's the kind of mentality that we need to push away, that we need to punish teams for. And it seems like this cycle was a lot better than those in the past, with punishing people who were just rug pulling and starting scam projects and things like that. But it still goes on a lot, and people still buy their tokens even when there's glaring red flags. So and I know a lot of this is speculation and people just wanting to basically gamble with their money and see if they can make a quick buck, but again, you don't want to incentivize that kind of thought. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, please subscribe to the channel. I'm going to be covering more FatMan content as it comes out. I think he brings a lot of good lessons for us to learn, and so I would like to continue following this story until hopefully we see it come to a resolution. So with that being said, guys, I'll see you next time.